So after the Cubs won the World Series, I wrote a big deal on Facebook about how I've been following the World Series all by decoding media stories and whatnot. And I had said how I think it's synced up to Hillary Clinton being the next president. I've also said multiple times I think if the Indians won the World Series, then Donald Trump would be president. Anyway, I was typing something last night on there because I started thinking about the connection to Back to the Future with the Cubs and whatnot. And Trump equals 88, Curse of the Billy Goat equals 88. It's 88 miles per hour for time travel. And for some reason, as I was typing that up, I started thinking about the Simpsons episode where they say that Donald Trump is the president, but his sister Lisa is actually the president in this episode. But Donald Trump was the president before her. But I was talking about Back to the Future, and I realized this episode was called Bart to the Future, kind of a play on words of Back to the Future. Anyway, I want to start this off by showing the clip of Donald Trump coming down the escalator. You know, they duped a lot of people into thinking that the Simpsons had made that before Donald Trump came down the escalator when he announced his campaign and whatnot. But that Simpsons short, it wasn't even in an episode, it was just a Simpsons short, and it came out just a few weeks after Donald Trump came down the elevator. So this didn't happen first. But I just want to point out one thing. I've been talking all about this Native American theme, how it syncs up to Donald Trump. Donald Trump in Gematria equals 48. The Cleveland Indians hadn't won since the year 48. And we've got all the stories about the North Dakota pipeline, telling us about the Indian theme when the Indians are in the World Series. And I even mentioned how Neil Young is somehow connected to all of it. He was in the band Crazy Horse. He also has multiple songs where he sings about Native Americans and whatnot. And it's interesting, when Trump announced he was running for president or whatever, listen to the song that's playing in the background. It's totally Rockin' in the Free World by Neil Young. And also, the Cleveland Indians are from Ohio. Neil Young was also with Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and they had the song Ohio. 4 Dead in Ohio, singing about the Kent State shooting. The Republican National Convention was in Cleveland this year in Ohio. The Kent State shooting was even on May 4th, 5/4. If you write out the word baseball, baseball equals 54 in Gematria. A whole bunch of stuff synced up to it. Neil Young even has a new song that's out about the Dakota Access Pipeline. So I just wanted to point the significance out of Ohio and Donald Trump using Neil Young's song to announce his presidential campaign and how it connects to the Native American theme that I've been talking about. Anyway, in this Bart Simpson episode, it's Bart to the Future, what happens is they're going to go camping or something like that, and there's a bunch of bugs and mosquitoes, and they get there, and the camp ranger, he tells them they better turn back, there's too many bugs. So they leave to go find a place to stay for the night, and Bart says, "Oh look, an Indian casino." If you write out Indian casino in Gematria, it equals 112. We just had the 112th World Series with the Cleveland Indians, and they lost that World Series on November 2nd, a lot like 112, 11/2. Also it says, now appearing Carrot Scalp. Carrot Scalp in Gematria equals 45, 54, and 126. You know, baseball equals 54. What's interesting about 45 and 54, if you write them both out as words, they both equal 126. So just interesting, Carrot Scalp equals 45, 54, and also 126. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff in regards to 45. The last time the Indians won the World Series in the year 48, it was the 45th World Series. Cubs equal 45, Illinois equals 45, Wrigley equals 45. They were cursed from the year 45. I'm not sure if I even made a video on it, but just before the World Series began, We even got the story about a bus crashing in California, and they were leaving the casino, and then they were going back to California. It was at Red Earth Casino, once again reminding us of Native American. The chief or whatever in the story, his name equaled 88, like Curse of Billy Goat. California, one of 2 states that equals 88, once again telling us about the Curse of the Billy Goat. California is also the 31st state, and I was talking a lot about the number 127 in the World Series. The 31st prime number is 127. That's why we got the story at the Dakota Access Pipeline. We got a story about 127 people being arrested. North Dakota and Gematria equals 127. The 112th World Series came to an end on the 127th anniversary of North Dakota being a state even. California became a state on 9/9, September 9th, and Illinois equals 99 the big way. This bus company also was headquartered in Des Plaines, Illinois, and it's a suburb of Chicago. It's where the first franchised McDonald's under Ray Kroc was. Ray Kroc equals 91, just like Chicago Cubs. Zachary K. Hubbard, go to his videos and search Ray Kroc. There's a ton of information in regards to the San Ysidro McDonald's massacre and how it connects to Ray Kroc and the San Bernardino shootings. But just wanted to make a point. They also did this before the Super Bowl. We got a bunch of stories about bus crashes, and it was telling us that the Broncos were going to win the Super Bowl. And then just before the World Series, we got this bus crash that connected to the World Series, connected to the Indians, but it was telling us about the Cubs. So anyway, in the Simpsons episode, they don't go camping. They find this casino, and Bart's too young to get in, so he gets in this box, like a ventriloquist doll is in the box, and he throws it in the garbage. And he gets in, and then he gets caught when he gets in there, and they send him to like the owner or whatever it is. And the owner starts a fire and then talks to Bart and tells him to look into the fire, and he can see his future. And then, of course, when he gets to the future, his sister, Lisa Simpson, is the new president, and she mentions that Donald Trump they inherited quite a budget from President Trump. So that means Trump was president before the first woman president, or before a woman president. Just kind of interesting to think about. And I'll talk about that as we move on here. Another thing I wanted to point out in regards to Bart Simpson, I made a video about Steve Bartman, the guy who cursed the Cubs in 2003, and I even mentioned how it's connected to the Bartman song that Bart Simpson made, and also the voice of Bart Simpson was super connected to the World Series this year. In the Steve Bartman incident, he was sitting in seat 113. It was also the 113th pitch that foul ball got hit to him and whatnot. I even mentioned in this post about the Earthquake series, the Bart series, and how that tied in. I'm not going to go into that, but Bartman sitting in seat 113 on the 113th pitch. In that Bartman video with Bart Simpson, they show Bart like in prison with the number 113 around him. And the Steve Bartman incident happened in the Cubs' 88th season at Wrigley. The Cubs had 88 regular season wins. After the Steve Bartman incident, the Marlins went on to score 8 runs in the 8th inning. Curse of the Billy Goat in Gematria equals 88. And I looked up the voice of Bart Simpson, who happens to be this lady, Nancy Cartwright, and her birthday was on the day the World Series began this year, and she was born in the year 57. World Series, the small way, equals 57. Her full name in Gematria, Nancy Jean Cartwright, also equals 88. I mean, that's a whole lot of 88 connecting to Bart Simpson and whatnot. I even talked about Back to the Future in this post, but interesting that it's, this came out in the year 2000, and they go to the Indian Casino, and then the Cubs break the curse playing the Indians. It's very, very obvious. So when Bart goes to the future then, or he's seeing his future, he sees basically he's like an alcoholic and whatever, a loser, and he puts this laser gun up to his head, like you think he's going to kill himself, and then it's just like brings on the news, and the first thing they say is the lottery numbers are 446, and then Bart says he was so close he had 327. And who knows if this means anything. I just added them up, and it equals 773, which is the 137th prime. 137 is special because it's the 33rd prime, the highest degree in Scottish Rite Freemasonry. And 327 that Bart says that he has, it's also was the 87th day of the year this year. Clinton equals 87. The Cubs won Game 7, 8-7. If you subtract the two numbers, it equals 119. All-Seeing Eye, Star of David, they both equal 119. It's also the 9/11 backwards. But what I found interesting about that was Lisa Simpson wasn't the president just yet. She was the president-elect, and that's what they made it clear. So that means that it was actually the day before she became the president, which was January 19th, a lot like 119. Also, if you write out President-elect Lisa Simpson, like they say it on here, that also equals 112 and 301 the big way. Lisa Simpson fitting to be the president because her name equals 47, just like president. There's also a part where they show Bart Simpson, and, you know, possibly it's a 55, but it looks like there's S, 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 you know, there's 4 S's. S is the 19th letter, so it would be a 48 and a 48, reminding us of Donald Trump, reminding us of the Cleveland Indians not winning since 48. A whole bunch of other stuff that's going on with the year 48. It was the year Israel declared its independence. It was the last closest supermoon. If it is 55 and 55, I mean, Chicago Cubs equals 55 in Gematria. Also, if you add them together, 110, president equals 110. So, the short where Donald Trump is coming down the escalator, or the whatever, yeah, the escalator. I think I said elevator in the beginning of the video, but it's called Trump-tastic Voyage, and it supposedly was released on July 7th of 2015. If you write out Trump-tastic Voyage, it equals 73, just like Hillary Clinton. So, you know, possibly pointing us to Hillary Clinton just because of what it's called. In that short, you can go on YouTube and find it. Just type in Simpsons, Donald Trump or something, and it'll come up. But Homer Simpson is like looking at Donald Trump's hair, and he starts to daydream and whatnot. And this little thing comes across. Macy's Get Lost, and it has Donald Trump. Because Macy's was one of the companies who had cut their ties with Donald Trump. But we've been talking about Macy's and how it's connected to Thanksgiving. I talked about the Minnesota mall stabbing that was connected to Macy's. Then we got the Washington mall shooting that was connected to Macy's. There's a big connection to the area that I lived in, and I live in, connected to the Omaha Indians. Then the Omaha Indians, their tribal headquarters are in Macy, Nebraska. On Thanksgiving, we have the Macy's Day Parade. You know, think about the Pilgrims and the Indians, the story that we get told every year. So just interesting, this is one of the cards that they show when he's daydreaming. And then he gets thrown out at the Trump rally. And if notice in the background, the building back here says Aztec. Once again, reminding us of Native Americans. Not necessarily the Native Americans you're thinking of, but still interesting. It even pans over, and I should have taken a screenshot, but it talks about it shows a baseball card shop, just reminding us of baseball yet again. So, I mean, just amazing that this Simpsons episode also ties into Native American stuff. I still think that Hillary's going to be the president, but, you know, it's something to think about. Makes me wonder, connected to all the Native American stuff. The song Rockin' in the Free World even came out on Prince Charles's birthday. Prince Charles, also born in the year 48, talked about him connected to the English Civil War. And the English Civil War was super connected to every sports championship last year. Even the Cavaliers, who won the NBA Finals, the Cavalier is a follower of King Charles during the English Civil War. King Charles I died age 48. Charles II equals 48 in Gematria. Prince Charles, who would become King Charles III if Elizabeth dies, he was born in the year 48. Anyway, his birthday, November 14th, 1114. If you write out Native Americans, it equals 1114 in Jewish Gematria. And that's also the same day that Rockin' in the Free World came out. This year we're getting the extra super moon for the first time since 1948 on November 14th. It's also the day that leaves 47 days in the year, like the word president. Maybe that has something to do with it, maybe not. But one last thing I wanted to point out is it says the episode was the 243rd episode. And I don't exactly know what that number represents, but I've been seeing it a whole lot. I've talked about how Princess Diana died on the 243rd day of the year. And, you know, she was the former wife of King Charles. And it was even 31/8 the day that she died. And Prince Charles was born on the 318th day of the year. And 318 is a number that's connected to pi. It's connected to like the backwards pi. If you take 22 and divide it by 7, it equals 3.14. But if you take 7 divided by 22, it equals 0.318. And I'm not going to re-explain it all, but, you know, this number is super connected to pi. And these people love to do everything with pi because it deals with cycles and circles. So it's just interesting. It's the reverse way or whatever. And in regards to Bart to the Future and Back to the Future, she was supposed to be the queen, you know, when the Cubs won the World Series and whatnot. So I don't know for sure how it's all tied in, but I know that there's something significant with it. Even Golden State Warriors equals 243. And the 243rd day of the year also leaves 122 days in the year. If you write out Golden State, it equals 122. I'm not going to go on a big tangent, but Golden State Warriors were originally from Philadelphia. And in this whole mix, there's something to do with the movie Rocky and how it connects to Apollo Creed. And in the movie Rocky, Apollo Creed also died on August 31st, the 243rd day of the year. That, you know, it brings it back to Philadelphia. We had the death of Vanity, and he was in the movie Action Jackson that had her in it. I even talked about how he was Chubbs in Happy Gilmore, and Happy Gilmore is connected to something to do with an earthquake and the Comcast Center in Philadelphia. There's a whole bunch of stuff that seems to go back to Philadelphia. And Philadelphia is where the Fresh Prince is from. Think about King Charles and a new king and the Fresh Prince. But leaving it at that, just wanted to point out the significance of the Indian stuff in the Simpsons episode that I never noticed before. It's also connected to Back to the Future and whatnot. And possibly it's telling us Donald Trump's going to be the president, but I think it's the other way around. So have a good one. Actually, one last thing I forgot to mention about the 243. If you write out 45th president in Gematria, it equals 243. So what are the odds the Simpsons episode about, you know, pretty much telling us about Donald Trump and also a woman president is the 243rd episode? And also the small way, 45th president equals 108, the number that was super connected around the Chicago Cubs, but also around the curse of Rocky Colavito. So, that's all I wanted to say. Have a good one.